Hi everyone, it's Michael here. Instead of doing our usual little trailer intro today, I just wanted to hop on, and there was something that I caught in the episode that I said incorrectly, so I just wanted to correct that now in retrospect. I think during the episode that I said Tom Cruise was offered to play the role of Red in The Shawshank Redemption. I actually got that mixed up. It was Andy Dufresne that Tom Cruise, he was offered the role of Andy Dufresne. Tom Hanks was apparently also offered the role of Andy. For Red, there were a few people considered, including Harrison Ford and Clint Eastwood, so I just wanted to hop on and correct that. And one more thing I wanted to say is that during this episode, you hear me grappling with the idea of not knowing what social media to be on. I think when I studied journalism, our lectures really beat it into us, kind of that you need to have a platform, you need to be visible somewhere. But I don't really like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. They're just not my vibe. And I know Twitter has gotten extremely toxic at the minute. And we recorded this a week and a half ago. And then between that time, after that time, there started to get a lot of buzz around the platform BlueSky, which has been around for, I think it's been around for a couple of years now. I remember hearing about it anyway, at least a year ago. But it seems to have got a lot of buzz and a lot of migration off Twitter. So I thought that I would check it out and get us an account there. So if you want to follow us, you can do so. Our handle is the Audiobook Club. And if you want to follow me, my handle is Michael John Kane. I'll have both handles there in the description if you want to give us a follow. And one final thing, we always forget to do this every episode, but our email is theaudiobookclubpodcast@gmail.com. Please email us if you notice anything that we might have said wrong, if you just want to say hello, or if you want to recommend a book or anything like that. That's our email address. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm Michael, your host for today, and joined with me are my three co-hosts, if you guys want to say hello.
What's up? Hello.
Hello.
Today we will be discussing different seasons, written by Stephen King, read by Frank Muller. So why did I pick this book? As I said on our previous Stephen King episode when we did The Shining last year, that I would probably pick a Stephen King book each year for us to cover, because Stephen King is my favourite author and he's got quite a lot of books, and I think he has quite a range of writing, and I think they will make interesting episodes, whether they are everybody is on board or not. I think the divisiveness could add to the enjoyability of the episodes. We'll see what this one is like anyway. As I said at the end of the last episode that I had intended to pick Pet Sematary for this episode for a while, and I think I built it up to you guys like off air. I was like, some of you guys are going to hate the next book that I'm doing, because I do think that is like the darkest book that Stephen King has written. It leans right onto the far horror, but the subject matter, there's some things, like especially like personal things that have happened this year, that kind of make that book strike a bit too close to home now. So I think I'm gonna put that on the back burner and do that maybe another year. Why go with different seasons then? We've done a couple of like collections on the show before. We've done Norse mythology and Last Wish, which I believe were both Jonathan episodes, and I really liked breaking them down and talking about the different stories, comparing the different stories and everything. And Stephen King is very well known as not only a novel writer, but a short story and novella writer. He's got a lot of short story collections, and he's got a lot of collections of like 4 novellas condensed together. So I thought it would be good to do one of those kind of episodes to talk and compare. I don't know if Different Seasons is my favorite of his collections, but it is definitely the most famous of his collections, for very good reason, that 3 of these were made into movies, and 2 of those movies are extremely well known in pop culture. They're extremely popular. I'm of course referring to The Shawshank Redemption and Stand By Me, which are both adaptations of Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption and The Body from this book. So I thought it would be an interesting episode to talk about, an interesting book to do. I really, really enjoy this collection. I think it's such a diverse range of stories, big kind of variation of themes and topics and different emotions that the stories elicit from one story to the next, very different emotions and very different tones. And there's even an afterword from Stephen King in this book where he talks about. Don't know if you guys listened to that. I didn't really specify if that was required listening or anything. You didn't really have to, but he talks about like how he wrote these books. He wrote these novellas between writing some of his earliest books, and when he just had enough energy, and he was worried about being typed as like a horror writer, and his publishers were worried about that as well. So he was probably had that on his mind as well, that he was writing more dramatic stories, because in this collection we have a coming of age story, we have a prison escape story, and we have like a psychological thriller, and then the last story I think is more, it has more traditional horror. It's like a Charles Dickens kind of style of horror. So a really wide range of genres kind of coalescing together. But I'm interested to know now, before we get into the premises of each stories and what you thought, what were your experience was like listening to everything overall without going delving too deep into each specific story. So I think I'm gonna go to you first, Jason. And the reason I wanted to go to you first is because you said to me at one stage, you said you really wanted to talk about this collection. So the fact you really want to talk about it made me really want to hear about it. So I'm looking forward to getting into your thoughts, but I don't know what they are. But just give me like an overview of what you thought.
I think the reason why I want to talk about it is because I feel like there's at least gonna be one story that's gonna be very divisive, but I feel like probably overall we'll actually all just have different opinions about each of the sort of 4 different stories. For me, yeah, I like, as you sort of said, like very different themes. I had a lot of different feelings throughout this book. I don't want to go too deep into that now. I do feel like it was maybe a mixed bag with regards to some of the stories compared to some of the quality of the other stories. But I think it'll be something we could probably spend hours chatting about.
Yeah, I think I said one stage on the podcast we could like, Stephen King has written enough books that we could like just exclusively do Stephen King books. There actually is a podcast. There's a few podcasts that do that. One of them is the Losers Club podcast, and I listened to theirs, and it was funny that they did this book, and they broke each of these stories down into individual episodes, roughly 2 hours long. So,
Jesus.
like, no, we could literally do an episode for each of these stories. There's that much, but gonna try as much as possible to stick to our usual format and condense it, give quicker thoughts on it. But yeah, Jonathan, I would like to hear your thoughts next, just on how you find the overall collection.
Yeah, I think out of the 4 books, I really enjoyed 2 of them. One of them or maybe I'll actually just give you what those 2 was, and that was Rita Hayworth from The Shawshank Redemption and Apt Pupil. So basically the first 2. Then The Body, I Stand By Me, I was just thought it was okay. And then The Breathing Method, honestly, I found it quite hard to follow, and it was a very strange story. So it didn't find too much enjoyment from that one. But Shawshank Redemption, or Rita Hayworth from The Shawshank Redemption and Apt Pupil were really, really good. So overall, I quite enjoyed this book.
Yeah, like Jason said, there would be quite divisive opinions. I think I know which story he's referring to that will be the most divisive, and I'd be surprised if that isn't the most divisive.
I think it's fairly obvious, yeah.
Yeah. But I would be also surprised if there's like not a general consensus on what the weakest story is in this collection. But we'll see as we go, as we break them down. Stephen, I'll go to you next. How did you find the overall collection?
Yeah, overall I liked it. I think I kind of have the same opinions as Jonathan, to be honest. The first 2 were really good. I liked The Body, but there was some issues with it.
Yeah.
that were a bit annoying. And then the last one, I just didn't even rate it at all. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall good.
No, happy to hear that. I'm excited now to get into more depth and get get
I knew you
get
thought I
thoughts.
hated it.
What?
I knew
We
you
all
thought
seemed-
that I hated it. I could tell by the order that you asked.
No, the reason I went with you last, Stephen, is because I already knew that Jason wanted to talk about it, and I talked briefly about it with Jonathan. So you were the one that I didn't really know, but I probably expected that you would rate it least. But I didn't think anybody would hate it. But I did think people would hate individual stories. I'm actually surprised to hear that you liked Apt Pupil, but we'll get on to that.
So was I. Once I heard the premise, I thought, no way.
You know what? I'm also very surprised to hear you like that, Pupil. I thought you were going to hate it.
That's one I thought you were gonna not like, Stephen, at all. But we'll get on to we're gonna break down each story and we'll get on to why what you liked about it and what everybody thought of it. So before we get on to that, anyway, the first story and the collection and this collection is it's arranged by seasons. It's kind of the motif of the book. So not only do they have their title, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption as the first story, the subtitle is Hope Springs Eternal for Spring as the first season. So this story, it's going to be almost impossible to talk about this story without referencing the movie. The movie is an extremely faithful adaptation. There are changes, there are differences. For example, Norton, the what do you call him again? What do you call
The
what he
warden.
is? The warden. Norton, the warden. He was there was like several wardens within this story. So the movie condensed him down into one character. Same with some of the guards. They condensed into one or two characters, and there's more. I would say this novella is more like a relationship between Red and Andy, whereas the movie focuses more on a group of prisoners. And I think some of those changes were really good by Frank Darabont. I think he actually fleshed out a lot of things, which is unusual to hear about, like an adaptation from film to movie, because usually you would say the book is more fleshed out, but in this case, obviously, it's a novella, and there's certain aspects I think that the movie went into more that I really thought were good. But anyway, we'll start with beginning of this story. It is narrated by Ellis Red Redding, a 57-year-old Irish American. In 1938, Red staged a car accident. What he did, I don't think it ever actually tells you what Red did in the movie. He staged a car accident, having previously insured his wife for a lot of money. But the wife was also driving with the neighbor and her child, so all of them died, and Red was sentenced to 3 life sentences for all their murders. Red has a reputation within the prison for being the guy who can get anything to anyone. And then one day, it's 1948, that Andy Dufresne arrives in Shawshank. Andy was sentenced for murdering his wife. There was a lot of circumstantial evidence against Andy. The fact that he purchased a gun and his overall demeanor seems very cold to the jury and to the judge. His wife had been cheating with a golf pro, so that was believed to be the motive for gunning them both down. And one of the reasons that it was seen as not only a crime of passion, but as cold blooded, was the fact that he reloaded the gun. When he is in the prison, he asks Red to get him a rock hammer. Red is a bit reticent to give him this until he explains that it's for minerals, it's for shaping minerals, and he also requests a poster of the actress Rita Hayworth. It's another difference from the movie, that it changes more often. I know there is changes in the movie of the poster, but it changes a lot within the novella. I think it only changes a few times in the movie. So we see Andy's kind of journey within prison. So he's kind of introduced to the harsh realities of prison life through the sisters within the prison who rape Andy repeatedly and attack him, and Andy, then he starts to gain this like mythical status, which is the way this whole book is kind of narrated by Red, that Andy just floats about, and there's all these stories and legends about him, and he even admits himself within the book that some of them are secondhand. So we don't even there's a bit of an unreliable narrator thing going on too within the novella, that you don't even know, is this exactly how this happened, or have the prisoners been retelling these stories over and over again. But one of the things that Andy's revered for is the fact that when they're tarring the roof, he overhears one of the prison guards talking about a big inheritance that he's going to receive, and Andy, being a finance guy, knows how to get him this without it being heavily taxed. And he gets spears for everybody on the roof. He starts laundering money for the warden as well, and for more guards within the prison. He starts also to take more interest in educating the other prisoners. He gets money for a library by writing repeated letters. He meets a guy, Tommy Williams, and he really bonds with him, grows a very, very personal relationship, like a mentor, becomes like a mentor for him. But this is Tommy Williams eventually reveals to him that he had a cellmate who bragged about the murders that Andy was convicted for. Another difference in the movie, Andy reveals this to the warden, wants to, get retrial and everything with this new evidence. In the novella, Tommy is just sent to a different prison, and the movie, it's like he actually gets executed by one of the guards. Andy is placed in solitary confinement. It's kind of like the low point of the story. And after this, Andy gets out, and there's this whole thing of whether Andy is gonna kill himself or everything. It's that low. And then it turns out that Andy has escaped behind his poster, using the rock hammer over years and years. And I think it goes into a lot more detail in the book. It talks about how the fact it easily could have failed. There's even somebody else who was on the cell with him at one stage who felt a draft. And it talks about how he was like a year away from the porcelain pipes being replaced, so he wouldn't have been able to break through the steel pipes and everything. But he crawls through and he escapes the prison. And then he goes to, he had discussed going past the Mexican border to Red before. So when Red is paroled, he goes to point a wall that Andy had referenced within prison, finds a parcel containing $1,000, inviting him to join Andy in Mexico. And we're kind of left a more ambiguous ending than is in the movie, where he kind of says it's the same quote that overlays the movie, where I hope I see my friend again, I hope. But that's kind of where it ends in the novella, where we actually do see them meeting up in the movie. So it's more ambiguous within the novella, just left open for interpretation, whether Red meets him or whether or not. In the movie, we know that he definitely does meet him. So that's kind of it. It's one of the most famous movies ever. I probably don't even need to break it down. I could have just said it's the Shawshank Redemption. But there are slight differences here and there. Overall, what was your experience listening to this? How did you enjoy this story? Go to you first, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's pretty much the movie with a few differences. I think the book is great. I think the book's really, really good. Pardon me, or the novella. I do think the movie added some things that just elevated it slightly. But I had a great time listening to this novella. I think it was the perfect sort of start to just get us into different seasons. I think the story is just so tightly knit. There's just so much happening every chapter. I think Frank Muller's narration as Red, at times I almost did just nearly think I was listening to Morgan Freeman. I don't know if anyone else had that experience or just me, but I thought this was a near flawless story. It was a great time.
Yeah, happy days. Jonathan, I'll go on to you there next. What did you think of the novella version of this story that is extremely famous and extremely well known in pop culture?
Well, I have seen the Shawshank Redemption movie, I'd say about 10 times, so it's one of the favourites of me and Michael's dad, so he always has it on. Yeah, the movie is absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely up there of one of my favourites, and I do agree with what you said, and Michael, the movie is far more fleshed out, and I think that's what makes it such a good movie is all the wee extra bits on top of this great story. Just all the wee extra details that the movie added were amazing, especially the guard, I can't remember his name, but the head guard, who's just this terrifying guy. and like I think your first introduction to him, he beats a guy to death like in the movie and stuff. So things like that is quite good. But the book, yeah, I still just can't get over the fact like that this is such a like how short this story is. Like you were able to sum it up there in like 10 minutes. You basically went through the whole story, and like the movie's like a 3-hour movie. Like it's ridiculous, I think. But yeah, overall the story's brilliant. I like how it starts with him being wrongly convicted. He's wrongly convicted because you hear what actually he was doing there. Like he was at the house and he did have a gun, and then he went home. But yeah, it's just like you're always on his side, and like even though people are calling him cold and all, it's more like he's extremely calculated, and he's I don't know what like half the time he's going to be thinking about wandering away, because I think he's in there for it's like 29 years or something like that. But like I feel like the big plan, the escape and all, it's not like he was an absolute genius or anything. I think a lot of it was a lot of luck.
Yeah.
In terms of it was put in an end cell that was actually where you could tunnel through. The fact that there was random tossings of the cells all the time, and they never checked behind the poster. Like the movie does a very good part where the warden comes to do a random toss and like checks the cell, and then he doesn't approve of the poster because he's like deeply religious. But he Andy, like, because he's helping out with the finances and all, he kind of gets on with the the higher ups and stuff, and they kind of make exceptions for him. So I guess that is a bit of him having that education and stuff like. But again, it was just lucky that the warden was the person that would do that. And the fact then that the book does add that extra element with he actually had the cellmate and stuff like that, whereas in the movie I think everyone is in a cell by themselves. But no, overall, I really enjoyed this story. I actually think, in terms of movie-wise, it's one of my favourite movies ever. But in terms of the short story in this book, it would actually probably be my second favourite.
Yeah.
With the next one, App Pupil being my favourite, which we'll get on to. But yeah, love this book. This short story in this book.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Like, I would definitely rate, even being a big Stephen King fan, I would rate the movie above the novella, because it is one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. So it's not detracting from the novella to say that it's not as good. It's just the movie is so good, and so much of the heart is from like performances from Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins, and the beautiful music, and how the way the movie comes together. One thing like that you said too about the luck aspect, I think that's something that the novella reckons with a lot more than the movie does. Like, we have a lot more internal of them saying, like, of Red saying, oh, this could have gone wrong, and that could have gone wrong, and this could have gone wrong, like at the escape attempt. So it very much does acknowledge that there was a lot of luck in his escape. And I think that actually makes it a bit more inspiring in a way, because you realize that Andy, not only was he having this perseverance and this patience to dig this tunnel, but he also had to grapple with the fact that this could fail at any time. He could be moved cells, he could be found out. I think that kind of where the movie gives a lot of depth to like the entourage of characters and stuff. I think that struggle is kind of stronger within the novella. But I will go on to you next, Stephen. What did you think of the novella?
I liked it, yeah. I expected big things, obviously, because the movie was so good, and I think it's one of the best movies ever made, so I was pleasantly surprised that it lived up to that. And I agree with what you guys were saying, where it's not, the novella's good, but it's not as good as the film, but it was still great. I think it was definitely a good intro to the four stories, like Jason was saying. I think if it had started with one of the other ones, it might have been a bit of a harder read for me, but it was really good.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah. I summed up the story, but I didn't really give my thoughts as well. Yeah, I really like the story. Think about rankings more when I'm putting final thoughts together. Not sure where it would rank right now, but yeah, I think it's a phenomenal story, and the movie. I think instead of talking about the movie and other media, I think we should just accept that we're going to talk about the movies of these throughout, because they're so, especially Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption,
so entwined.
Yeah, they're so entwined. And
yeah,
the movie, I remember the first time I watched the movie, my granddad on my mum's side had taken a heart attack, and I went to stay with my granny because my mum wanted me to keep her company, and then she asked me to put on a movie, and like from this big stack of videotapes I just randomly grabbed Shawshank Redemption, and I remember after my granddad had recovered, because I didn't really have like a close relationship with my grandparents on that side or anything, and I barely spoke a word to my granddad, but I remember me perking up and saying, "Oh, I watched Shawshank Redemption," because I knew he loved it, and then he was like, "Oh, how did the?" He's like, "One thing, how did he get the poster back on to the wall?" And then I was just like thinking about that. I was like, "Oh yeah, how did he do that? All four corners back onto it."
You could do it. There would be a gap, but I think you could do it.
Yeah, I'm sure he could maneuver it somehow. I'm sure there's a way.
Well, you wouldn't have taken the top two off, like, because you know when in the movie you see him tunnel and he's just taking one of the corners off, and he like does that. So if he tucks the bottom two off, so it's like a flap goes through it,
Yeah.
and then he could put one of them on, and then the other one could just hang loose anyway, but it would still look like it's on because the other three are on.
Yeah.
There you go. Solved.
Problem solved.
I think another incredulous part of the if you can explain this one, Jonathan, is in the movie it definitely does look like a steel pipe when Andy hits it with a rock, and like how on earth does he
I know.
get through that?
100% steel pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sounds like a steel pipe too.
The fact that you said like the porcelain, because I was wondering. Now I watched the movie there recently for this and was like, yeah, I always have the same thought. It's like he hits it with a rock and there's a massive like hole big enough for him to get through. Like, how the hell did that happen? But yeah, in the book you're saying it's described as like a porcelain pipe, so in that case that would make sense, like how that would work. But yeah, the movie doesn't do anything to make it look that way.
Yeah. One thing Greta wanted me to mention to you about this, I think it's a piece of movie trivia that everybody knows, but just in case there's somebody out there who doesn't know, Tom Cruise was originally the first choice to play Red in this movie, which would have made it a very...
Really?
Oh.
I actually
Did you
didn't know
know that?
Didn't know that, no.
No, that's one like I always read on, like repeatedly post, but that would have made it a very
You'd be
different
far
movie.
too young.
that. That would have killed that film, I think.
It would have been a very different movie. Another piece of trivia, again, I'm just blurring together all our different sections, but I'm gonna just structure this episode the way that feels organic. But just another bit of trivia about the movie is that Frank Darabont, when he bought the rights from Stephen King actually didn't cash the check. It wasn't that much money, and Stephen King is said to not have cashed it because he perceived Frank Darabont to be a guy down on his luck who probably wouldn't succeed, so he felt bad taking the money. So I thought that was quite funny. Stephen King apparently still has the check framed. So
Right, there you go.
yeah,
I haven't googled this, but is Frank Darabont also the guy that did the first few seasons of The Walking Dead?
I know he
He is,
he
yeah.
did season 1. I don't know how. I know he left
He may have
under.
done season 2 or part of season 2, yeah.
Yeah. So we will move on here. In that one, I summarized the whole story, and the reason I did that is because it's so well known. In this next one, I'm probably going to break this down into 2 chunks. I'm going to introduce it and just give a bit about the premise and the beginning, and just get your thoughts on what you would have been thinking at that point, and then I'll sum up the rest of the book towards the end. So I'm going to break this one down into two chunks because it's less well known. The second story is Apt Pupil. So this story and the subtitle of this book is Summer of Corruption. In 1974 in Los Angeles, a teenager, Todd Bowden, arrives at the doorstep of an elderly German immigrant, Arthur Denker, and he's accusing him of being a wanted Nazi war criminal, Kurt Dusander. I think it was Patton, was it, that the camp that he accused him of running?
Yeah, Patton.
Yeah. So he kind of refutes it at first, but Todd had been spying on him for a while. He'd built up this whole portfolio of evidence, and eventually he acknowledges his identity, that yes, he is this Nazi war criminal. Todd does not want to turn him in as he suspects or anything. He just wants to hear detailed stories about his crime. Todd, we're revealed, he's got like this real morbid interest, and he's really curious about the darker aspects of the Holocaust, the kind of stuff that he wouldn't learn about in school. At first, Dusander refuses his demands, but Todd obviously has a lot of evidence of who Dusander is, and he threatens to turn him over to the authorities. So Todd, over the next months, he has visits to Dusander, a lot of visits, and he is telling his family that, oh, I'm just reading to this elderly old man, but he hearing gruesome, really, really gruesome, horrible details about the Holocaust, about what would have happened in the gas chambers and such. Todd even goes so far to get a replica SS uniform and demands that Dusander wears it and marches in it. And I think this was a really great part of the story. I think King conveyed it so well of how scary a figure Dusander suddenly became. And Todd, who was originally really enjoying it, sort of becomes afraid. I thought the conflicting feelings of that, I really felt that. Over time, Todd begins to have nightmares, and his grades begin to slip, as the title would suggest, apt pupil. Todd was actually a really good student, a straight A student before this encounter, but he starts to get B's and then he starts to get C's, and it's this gradual descent. After being confronted by his father, he forges his grades, and then Todd finds himself in danger of failing several courses. And another character is introduced to us, the guidance counselor Ed French, and he wants to meet the Bowden, and Todd and Dusander concoct a ruse because their interests are now aligned. Todd's still blackmailing him and saying, "I can turn you over to the authorities at any time." So Dusander goes to the school under the guise of being Todd's grandfather, and Dusander explains to Ed French that the grades are a result of problems at home and promises that the grades will improve. So it introduces an interesting aspect where the stakes are also that he has to get good grades to keep the secrets going. So it makes the idea of having to get good grades to keep your life from collapsing really amps up tension in the story. So I'm going to end it there. I think that's a good introduction to the premise of the story. At this point, what were you guys thinking? Were you surprised that the subject matter of this story, were you on board with it? Were you enjoying it at this stage? I'll go to you first, Jason.
I thought it was a steep turn from the previous story. I thought it got a lot darker. I know we haven't really got to the darkest sections of the story yet, but I think just the actual subject matter for a start, like just this, like a Nazi, someone that worked in the concentration camps, killed hundreds, if not thousands of people, being one of the main characters, and arguably not being the worst character. Says a lot. Says a lot about Stephen King's ability to write horror villains.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, there wasn't anything too crazy that happened, so I was still fully invested. I think it actually is very well written to this point. Slightly slower. Maybe the only issue I had with it was the sort of pacing of it. I felt maybe slowed down in comparison to Shawshank. I felt like that was like so tightly knit, whereas I feel like this story just dragged ever so slightly too long just to get to the end. I feel like there maybe could have been a few bits sped up. But yeah, I think we've really dove into the psychological horror thriller side of things with this story.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually feel like this story could have been a novel, like it could have been even longer. Like we could have started with Todd before him developing his morbid interest. There could have been a previous act to this, maybe that would have even extended.
Probably right. It's definitely the longest story in the
it does,
in the book. I don't want to say too much. I don't want this to sound too negative, but I was glad when it was over. Not because I hated it, just because it was troubling.
It was great.
Yeah. It is
very
up,
troubling.
Yeah. It is up there as one of King's darkest stories. I think I said earlier that Pet Sematary is probably his darkest. This would be top 5 in my opinion. It is one of the darkest things.
From what I've read about it, people on Reddit love to say it's his darkest. Yeah. I would, from the very limited things I've read. I mean, I know the summary, I know the plot of Pet Sematary, so I know that is program, and I know why you haven't chosen it. But this book is this novella is fairly dark, fairly grim.
Yeah,
and this is the first half. It gets a lot worse in the second half.
Yeah. So I'll go on to you next, Jonathan. What were you thinking at this stage? Were you surprised at the premise? Were you enjoying the story?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I've never heard of the story, heard anything about it before reading this. I kind of really love, World War II kind of stuff. So just even just like the descriptions of like the Nazi stuff like that, anything in that area is quite interesting to me. Not on the level of how Todd finds it interesting, of course, but just in that general realm, it's always good to have a story about it. I think I enjoyed this. I thought this was my favorite of the 4 stories in this. I was enjoying the setup part. I just love the darkness of this. I almost find it was quite like almost like dark comedy at times. Like I think like the Nazi war criminals, obviously, whoever was caught was, sentenced, executed or whatever. I feel like this is a more fitting punishment what Todd puts this man through, like actually making him relive these things and putting him through this trauma.
Yeah,
it's like a form of torture. So it's like he's getting what he deserves, but also Todd being a freaking psychopath as well. He is into all this stuff, but then it starts to really psychologically affect him, and he starts getting tortured by it as well, which I just thought was just such so like ironic almost. But no, I love the darkness of this story, and then there are bits like I actually laughed, the bits whenever his like dad or mum, his dad and mum's like really nice to him, and then he'll be like reply. I think his mum and he has like this pet name. His mum is like his mum. I can't remember her name, but she'll call him like Todd Baby, and then she'll call her whatever something baby. And then, like, in his head, he's thinking that he would left to, like, beat her to death or something like that. It's like,
starting to get intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, like these weird thoughts and all that. But sometimes I thought that was quite funny, like, but no, I really enjoyed the story, and I think it just gets better then as it goes on. I think it really just builds throughout it. The more you kind of find out, and the more messed up Todd gets because of it. But I enjoyed too, like, the kind of blackmail stuff as well. Yeah. The fact that it starts with like Todd blackmailing him about revealing his identity, but then at a certain point, I don't know if you've got that, but because I can't remember when that starts, when Doosander starts blackmailing Todd, saying that if a call comes out about him, it'll come out about Todd, the fact that he is now an accessory to this crime because he's known about it but not told anyone.
Yeah.
So I thought that whole element was really good too throughout the story. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it.
And it's like the whole stick of this book is like it's this cat and mouse between 2 really despicable characters, and traditionally we're following somebody who sometimes there's stories about anti-heroes, but it's very rare where we're following 2 villains against each other, and you kind of wonder why do I find it engaging. And I think there's a bit of meta commentary going on here with like like Inglourious Bastards. It has that scene with where the Nazis are watching everybody die and they're laughing, and it's supposed to reflect on the audience. It's like when you see something happening to them, now you're having a great time, and it's kind of that holding the mirror up to the audience. I think there's an element of that Todd has this morbid curiosity, this dark curiosity, but you and reading the story are also kind of participating in that. So I think that is at play in the story to a degree. I'll go to you next then, Stephen. What did you think of this?
You basically just summed up my thoughts there, like, because when I came into this book, I was like, okay, where is this going to go? Because obviously, the 2 main characters are both bad guys, right? Mm-hmm. Both sick monsters, right? And that's weird because for 2 protagonists, right? Yeah. So I was really curious where it was going to go, and then as it went on and on, I was enjoying that sort of cat and mouse element and thinking, how are they going to get out of this one type thing going on. And I sort of had like the opposite of feelings that you would normally have for a book. You want the protagonist to win, but I wanted them to get caught.
Yeah.
So it was sort of it was strange that way, but I think that's where I really liked it.
Yeah.
And then just a lot of like kind of like what Johnny was saying, a lot of the World War II stuff. I get a good kick out of that too, like reading about it and stuff. So it kept me going as well. But it was good. Messed up though. Yeah. I did wonder about Stephen King's like sanity. Like how do you come up with something like that? And then also worried about like, I don't know, some of the things he was writing. I thought he's a bit of a pervert, like Stephen King. Like
he has a lot of sexual horror in his books.
Yeah, it's messed up. Yeah. Like it for no reason too.
Yeah.
Like
those dreams were.
There was no need for it. Like and it goes a bit more in the next book too, but the sexual aspect of the thing, I didn't enjoy that.
Sometimes I can see where he's coming from when it's like he does it a lot where like a murderer will kill somebody and it'll be like it was like and he had an erection, and it'll be like, I understand
Yeah.
why he says that, because that's true.
And he was
like,
hard.
That's what, like, most serial killers are sexually motivated. There are some exceptions, but most are sexually motivated. So there's an element of truth to that. But yeah, he does go into way too much detail, and sometimes his sex scenes are very awkward.
Big time, yeah. Oh, just to sum up my thoughts. I think why I enjoyed it so much is there's a lot of parallels to another bit of media that I like, and that's Death Note. Probably talked about it before. Has anybody seen that?
I'm wondering what.
Well, not so much. Obviously, the stories are completely different, but more so the cat and mouse aspect of it, and the fact that the protagonists are both assholes.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I almost want the guy to get caught, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying now, 100%. So Lucinder, he knows that Todd has been doctoring his report cards, and that he has knowingly socialized with a war criminal. So Lucinder has some leverage against him to blackmail him back. This is what makes them more even-footed here. Todd eventually manages to bump up his grades, and having no longer any use for Lucinder, he wants to, and having this fear of all this coming out, he wants to kill him and make it look like an accident. So Todd says to Lucinder that he gave a letter to a friend, and that if anything does happen to him at any stage, the letter will be sent to the authorities. However, before Todd can enact his plan to kill Lucinder, he also mentions about having a safe deposit box where letters of confessions about what Todd has done in knowing about this war criminal will be released upon his death, and obviously the media will hear about this and it will destroy Todd's entire life. We aren't aware of it at this stage, but both Lucinder and Todd are bluffing. Over the next few months, Todd begins to murder homeless vagrants, and he thinks this will, it kind of helps with his nightmares. It gives him an outlet for all this darkness that's building up inside him. And this is a difference in the movie. The movie kind of condenses this timeline, whereas in the novella, years pass, and Lucinder and Todd, they become less frequent visitors, but when they do see each other, there's almost this admiration and there's kinship with each other that I picked up on anyway. Todd loses his virginity, but he finds sex unsatisfying compared to killing, and he thinks that part of that is because his girlfriend is Jewish, so it's almost putting him in the Nazi realm. It's touching towards that. When he isn't able to continue his killings, he starts to just aim at passing cards with a hunting rifle. He doesn't pull the trigger or anything, but you get this kind of foreboding feeling of what's this going to escalate into. Lucinder is suffering from his own nightmares, and he is killing homeless people, and I think at one stage kills a cat in the oven, and he is burying bodies in his basement. Despite being linked together, Lucinder and Todd aren't immediately aware that both of them are now murdering people because of this shared darkness that they've had. It isn't until one night that Lucinder he's digging a grave for his latest victim that he has a heart attack, and he calls Todd. Todd is on the phone. He has to kind of have this alibi going on, so his mum and dad don't know what's going on. Eventually, they get it sorted, and Lucinder ends up in the hospital, and he is sharing a room with Morris Heisel, who is an elderly Jewish man who is a survivor of the Holocaust, and he recognizes Mr. Denker but can't quite place him. The story kind of gives it really veers off. Stephen King does this a lot, where sometimes it's like a Tarantino kind of thing, where he just randomly introduces this important character, gives them a lot of backstory, and somebody who seemingly was insignificant suddenly becomes a central figure within the story. Todd eventually visits Lucinder at the hospital. So Lucinder, he's read about all these homeless men murdered, and he kind of makes the connection, and he warns Todd not to get careless, not even to stop murdering, just not to be careless with them. A few days later, Heisel, he realizes who Denker is, the commandant of a camp where his wife and daughters were murdered in the gas chamber. An Israeli Nazi hunter that we presume, after being given this information, visits Lucinder, and he reveals that he's been found out. After this Nazi hunter leaves, Lucinder steals drugs from the hospital dispensary and he commits suicide. Police detectives later interview Todd, and they kind of they have this suspicion that there's something not quite right about them. They don't let on at all. They're very the very accepting of Todd's alibi, but there's holes in it, such as the fact that I think it was Todd went back to clean up or something like that. So there's a hanging thread within his story. A vagrant recognizes Todd as the person that he's seen with several homeless people who've gone missing, and he notifies the police. Meanwhile, the counselor, Ed French, comes back into it, and he realizes that Todd's real grandfather was in Dussender, and he checks on Todd's old report cards and finds that they've been tampered with, and he identifies Dussender from the papers as the man that he's actually meant. French confronts Todd about this, who responds by shooting French dead. Todd then just breaks, and he goes out with a rifle and ammunition to the freeway, and he starts going on a shooting spree until he is shot dead by the authorities 5 hours later. So it's quite a dark story. It's not a very light touch at all. Very grim ending and grim throughout. What did you guys think of this story overall? I'll go with you first, Jason, there.
Grim. I thought it was a good story overall. I thought that Stephen King did a very good job of building up the tension. I suppose even just in the sort of innocent sort of stuff of like, oh, this guy's not getting the right grades. But I mean, it quickly transcends into something much worse than that. As you sort of touched on, I think the aspect of essentially there being two villains as like your two main characters is something a bit different. Like actually being villains, not rather than like jokey wee villains who are actually just pretty sound. Like they're both just
the Hollywood anti-hero.
Yeah, like they're just both absolute lunatics.
Yeah.
Todd's weird sexual rape fantasies and just all the murdering to appease himself of that. It was all just very grim. The whole scene of Dussender cooking the cat in the oven. I mean, I clearly get what that's in reference to.
Yeah.
Time in the camps, but fuck, it was grim. And this is what I meant by like I was glad it was over.
Yeah.
It was like sort of like when you ever walk through like one of those haunted houses of people jumping out at you. It's not a pleasant time at all, but you get out and you're like, well, enjoyed it, but I'm glad it's over. I'll do that next Halloween. It was a good story. Like it was a strong story.
Yeah.
I think.
It reminds me of a discussion we had on a previous episode, Jason, where I think you said you're like rating something about how much you enjoyed it. And I said, I always think of in terms of what is this story kind of trying to elicit from me? What emotion? Because if I rated something on enjoyment, for example, I would rate like a movie like Schindler's List like a 1 or a 2 because I really did not enjoy watching that movie. But if I was to enjoy it based on the emotions that it was trying to elicit, then I would give it a much, much higher mark. The same with this story. Like I think the primary emotions that you are supposed to feel is this. Obviously, it's a thrilling story because of the cat and mouse element. So it's a bit of a page turner at the same time, but it's also a lot of feelings of revulsion and disgust. And I think it elicits those feelings very strongly, which is why I really like the story.
Yeah, I think that might have been a reference to Kill a Mockingbird, potentially.
Yeah.
Like I had it in my head that like, yes, I did not enjoy it from a good feely time type of way, but I would say I have enjoyed it. Like I thought it was a very good thriller, although I had zero intentions of watching that movie. I know the rest of you have, but I had no intentions of watching that film. I could not bring myself to do it.
We'll talk about the movie after they give their thoughts. Yeah,
I didn't watch it.
I'll talk about the movie. Jonathan, what did you think of the story overall?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed the story. I think the whole thing then with Todd basically becoming more and more psychotic and actually then starting to murder people, right? That was like what you kind of expected his like transition. But I was while that was happening, I was thinking, Denker was kind of, because he was like psychologically scarred. I thought that there might have been some kind of arc with him that he was going to try and save Todd or something from going down this route. Like that's what I had in my head as this was going. I was like, oh, he's going to find out that Todd's killing these animals or whatever, and then he might try and... But then it just turned out that because he's living through all his trauma again, he just goes, I'd just love to start killing again. Like, I just thought that was just madness. Yeah, just extremely grim. I kind of like the introduction of that. because the introduction of that other character, the guy, the Jewish guy that he like meets in the hospital, is like he starts with like some random guy, and then he like falls and breaks his back or something like that, and you're just like, what's kind of going on here? Kind of took you out of the story a bit, and then it just kind of leads into him being in the same hospital room, and then you know, it's this coincidence that he was in that camp with him 30 years ago or whatever it was. I just thought that that was so interesting, and then the fact that the Nazi hunter guy appeared and was basically like, you know, as soon as you're well enough, like you're bit, like. And then, I actually like then that's, you know, Denker just, you know, he goes, I'm snookered here, like, I'm just going to have to give up rather than get taken into justice, so he just kills himself. I thought that was all quite interesting. And then I really, really loved the ending, how it just like ended with Todd on this mad killing spree and then just getting taken down. Just like it was, just like foreshadowed throughout the whole book that he was going to shoot somebody at some stage, and then he ends up just freaking shooting everyone. I just thought that was such a good way to end like these characters. The fact that like they both died and they're both absolute psychopaths. I really enjoyed the book.
I agree with you about their endings. I think it was very fitting for both the characters, the way that it ended. I'll go to you next there, Stephen. What was your thoughts overall on the story?
I don't really have much to add. I liked it a lot for different reasons than I normally like stories, which was good. I was glad to see that they both got what was coming to them. I really liked that the Nazi was tortured in the way that he was, because Nazis.
Yep.
But and I liked it. Just the only thing I want to add about the ending is that I liked that it didn't it didn't go on a whole rambling thing of him running around shooting people for a long time. It just sort of trailed off and says, he went on this spree and he was shot dead 5 years later.
Yeah.
I liked that it wasn't focused on, but it was good. I was surprised. It was so good.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy this story too. I think it says a lot of interesting things about the nature of evil. As a regular Stephen King reader, I think it's quite clear that although Stephen King does reflect characters in shades of grey at times, I think he does, as somebody who seems to believe that absolute evil does exist in some people. And I think this is an exploration of like what would happen if two people with somebody with that dormant absolute evil in them had that morbid curiosity and it was ignited with them. And I think, obviously, I think it has that meta commentary aspect of it too, where the reader is also reflecting on them, their own want of morbid curiosity. But obviously, it's one thing being having morbid curiosity, it's another thing to actually act on it. But one thing I wanted to touch on too is this is kind of an introduction to, if we are doing Stephen King books going forward, the whole shared King universe. I'm sure you guys did pick up on the fact that Dussender had a finance guy by the name of Andy Dufresne, a wife killer that he refers to.
Killing banker,
yeah. So the tie into Shawshank there. Dussender also
There's also
go ahead, Steve.
There's also a tie-in to The Shining, but it's more subtle.
Yeah, the room 217.
And Denker as well. His name. Apparently that's the name of the character that Jack is writing. A theory is that the book he's writing is this book.
Right, okay. That would explain a lot about his mentality.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
Yeah. There's another reference to Spring Heel Jack, which is the killer from a short story Stephen King wrote in the Night Shift, Strawberry Spring. So that's a few connections from that story. We will pick up on more stuff like that if we do more King books. He does this a lot, ties a lot of things together. And just the movie. So you didn't watch it, Jason? You didn't watch it, Stephen? Did you watch it, Jonathan?
I watched the first half of it today, actually, but I never got it finished. It does follow the novel pretty closely.
Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely crazy that Ian McKellen plays freaking Denker. Like,
I was so surprised.
So strange. Yeah, I was very surprised at that. But it just seemed like the movie was following things, so you can maybe update on the second half of the movie, because I only got the first half.
I found the movie to be extremely tame compared to the novella.
Oh, really?
I thought...
Yeah. There's only so much of that you can show on the screen. Like.
Yeah. I thought it was... Yeah, it was almost... It wasn't a bad movie. I just thought it was just an okay movie. It lost a lot of the elements that made this story very striking, and I think it was a bit afraid to go to the places. Maybe there was studio interference, I don't know. Didn't allow them to go to the places, and it condensed the story a lot, and I didn't like that aspect of it. I thought, Ian McKellen was a bit of a weird cast for that, but maybe that's just because I associate him with such different roles that he just seemed very weird in that role. But he actually did a pretty good German accent, I thought.
Oh, he plays Magneto then.
True.
Oh yeah, I know. I suppose. Yeah.
Well, the other set.
Who was also Bryan Singer, funnily enough.
I know.
Yeah.
And like back to back, like Usual Suspects, they add pupil to X-Men. Like,
yeah, that's a
his
interesting
3
run.
films. Yeah. Right, enough of the click, Stephen, about Ian McKellen being an X-Men either.
Right. So I think we have touched on that pupil pretty well there. We will go on to story number 3 now, which is The Body. People will better know it as Stand By Me, based off the film. Sorry, the film was based off the novella. So this is written from the perspective of Gordon LeChance, who's reminiscent about his childhood in Castle Rock, Maine, which is a reoccurring setting for Stephen King. So Gordy, he reflects that his brother, Dennis, who was his parents' favourite one, had recently died, and his parents weren't paying much attention to him. This is like a theme in It as well, so it's a common Stephen King kind of trope. The bulk of the story takes place in 1960 when Gordy and his 3 friends, Chris Chambers, Teddy DeChamp, and Vern Tessio, learn that a gang of hooligans, one of them overhears them talking about a recently discovered dead body of a boy named Ray Brower who was hit by a train. Because the gang they came across the body, and one of them, I believe, they were like under like a crawl space kind of area, looking for their pennies.
One of those like American porches.
Yeah, I don't know what you call those, but yeah, and I think it's already an interesting setup to me, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Stephen King actually witnessed one of his friends being hit by a train when he was younger, and I think he described it that he went home and lay in bed, and he didn't even remember it. But he said that he thinks he's subconsciously been writing about it ever since. So they make this grand plan to go on an adventure together, all 4 of them going to find this body. Chris steals a gun from his father and the 3 boys, and he meets the other boys in a camp nearby. So I really like the setup of this too, because it's one that I could really relate to, especially with, like, we all shared the same childhood, like just thinking about going on this grand adventure. No, they're going to find a dead body. It's not this happiest thing, but I think like at that age you would really take any excuse, and I think it's the fact that kids just want to do something important, and seeing this body would feel like something significant and important to them. It's also, again, it's sort of that morbid curiosity too, having never seen a dead body. Some of them anyway. I know one of Gordy's brother died, so he has over the course the narrative. It has this strange divergence, which I wasn't much of a fan of, where Gordy's reflecting on a story that he wrote, Stud City, because Gordy is a writer, which is another common Stephen King trope. He writes what he knows, and a lot of his protagonists are writers. This is kind of a weird story about a guy sleeping with his stepmother after his brother died or something, and I did find this very strange, and I was not sure why this was included. I didn't think it added much to the story, but we get back on track then with the main story. The boys they pass through the town dump, and they're chased by Chopper, and there's that very famous line, Chopper sick balls, where he believes that he's heard that. Teddy gets into a skirmish with a verbal skirmish with Milo, the guy who owns the dump, and he makes fun of Teddy's father, World War II veteran, calling him a loony, which really gets under Teddy's skin. And at this part in the movie, I felt extremely bad for that character. His reaction just made that moment very horrible. But Gordy and Vern, then they go on there, and Gordy and Vern are nearly run over by the train when they're crossing the trestle. When they're at a resting point, I'm not sure if Gordy sees the deer before or after the story, but anyway, his friends all encourage him to tell a story because he's like the storyteller in the gang, and they all love hearing his stories. So he goes off on another divergence, and this time I really enjoyed the divergence because it was the revenge of Lard Ass Hogan, and it's this story of like a pie eating contest in a town, and this guy who's like ridiculed within the town, and he swallows this big bottle of castor oil before going to the town's pie eating contest, and eats all these blueberry pies, vomits them all up, which starts this chain reaction where everybody's vomiting. And I thought it was an extremely funny story. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's like for a story that a young boy is telling, it kind of makes sense. I thought it was a great part on the movie and the novella. So we also have a point where they stumble into a pond. They get covered in leeches. That it's, oh god, it's like this horrible, horrible descriptions within this. The way King describes like the alien creatures sticking from them, and the way like the suction coming off, and it was such horrible description. I thought, but this whole story makes me think of like, it's a weird comparison they make, but like the ancient Greek kind of hero's journey stories where it's like this odyssey of adventure and just things are happening between point A and point E or whatever. So I think it has that classical structure within this coming of age story, which is another point what I think makes this a very cool story. So after a thunderstorm, the boys finally they stumble upon the dead body of Ray Brower, and as they observe it, they kind of come to terms with the fact that, oh, wasn't this big cool adventure after all? This is a young kid who he's now dead. He's never gonna think. I can't remember exactly what Gordy reflects on, but it's a lot of these things he'll never do, like never kiss a girl and never do all these things. That's when the bullies arrive, who had originally found the body, and they kind of intimidate them. And then during the argument, Chris pulls a gun on them, and finally the boys back down. After this, we're given a kind of narrative summary about what happens in the years after, or the years and days after. Talks about how the gang members all beat them up one by one, and they did get them in the end. It talks about how Gordy and Chris remained close, but they drifted away from their other friends over time. And then it talks about how all of them died one by one, and it talks about Chris's death, which is probably the most tragic, where he was stabbed while trying to stop an argument within a restaurant. And that's kind of it's kind of leaves on that. It's a bittersweet note, and it talks about like how you will never have the friends the way you had when you were 10, and it is that like bittersweet ending in the movie as well. So I'll go on to you first there, Jason. What did you think of this story, this novella?
This one I probably did struggle a bit more with. I know like it's a coming of age story, and like you made a good point there that it's like a bit more like your classic tale where it's like A to B, some wee things happen on the way, but I just couldn't really get into it as much. I felt like it was like a bit of a brain bleach after a pupil. Like yeah, there's still dark themes to it. Like there's all four of these lads I feel like have some sort of family drama or abusive family, and there's just the threat of the bullies. Like, well, I think they were going to stab him, kill him at the end. Like, but
yeah,
I just find it a bit boring, to be honest. And again, like we can't escape chatting about the movie with this. The movie's a very faithful adaptation, but I just find it a bit boring. Which I know is probably not what you want to hear, Michael, but
I am surprised, but I'm not gonna reply to you until everybody gives their thoughts, because I feel like you three are all on the same page with it. So I think it's better to address you all at once. So do you have anything else to say about it?
Yeah, I mean there's some good aspects. Like I think the scenes in the junkyard and like the scenes with leeches, and even like the train chasing after him, all bring that sort of bit of tension, a bit of excitement to it. I sort of lost my train of thought a wee bit there. But yeah, like the sort of the Gordy's stories, especially the first one, that sort of really threw me off at the start.
Yeah.
I find the pie one a bit better, but even still I was like, I don't know if there necessarily was a point. The point was just to sort of say this Gordy's an author, and like he's a child author, so the stories are a bit rubbish, but yeah, I just didn't feel like it added very much. And yeah, fortunately I did struggle with this story. So it'll be interesting to hear what the other two think.
Yeah, as I said, I think you are kind of on a similar page with it, so I'll wait to respond to you all at the end. Jonathan, do you want to give your thoughts on this novella?
Yeah, more or less completely agree with everything Jason said. I thought overall it was quite boring. There were wee glimmers here and there. I think the story about Larders was quite interesting. Or the whole vomit thing was quite funny, and I actually never didn't get a chance to watch the movie, and I've never seen it, but I think I've seen the scenes with the leeches before, And I think, that's quite terrifying. Like, and I think that is something like, one of them things that would give any child nightmares about going into any still water ever again. So yeah, I always remember like seeing that when I was younger or something and being like, yeah, I'm fucking staying away, even though we don't have leeches in Ireland, like, but just staying away from any water like that. But I thought it was, the way it ended too was just quite grim, like just the way it's like that the friends just kind of, I know it's maybe realistic and whatever, but it's like the friends create a touch and then they all died. It's like, this is just freaking grim as hell. Like, this is, I found the previous story, the story that is extremely grim, to be, grimly entertaining, whereas this one was just grimly boring, like, which is worse for me. Yeah, I just thought it was quite boring, and I agree with most of what Jason just said.
Yeah. Stephen, what were your thoughts on this novella?
Now, I did think parts of it were boring, but overall I liked it. I think there were some charming bits to it, and you sort of touched on it before, but that sort of like childhood adventure part of it I really liked. I mean, I can remember loads of times where we would just went wandering down backcountry roads, not really going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I sort of like, that, remembering those times. The sub stories, I'll call them, the Stud City and
Lardass.
Lardass. It was annoying. I will admit that those parts were really annoying. It took me completely out of it, and they weren't really good at all. I think I read somewhere that Stud City was actually a story that Stephen King wrote himself.
All right.
Like when he was in uni or something. So I once I learned that as well, I was kind of a bit more annoyed because he's kind of like inserting himself in more, and I was like, stop doing that.
He does it a lot, and that's in the story.
Yeah, I was kind of a bit annoyed with that, but it was fine. So that was the main pain points that I had with it. That, and also some of the language that the kids use is just really annoying. Like some of the slang terms just really piss me off. I don't know, like, is it gushy he keeps saying? It bugs me. I don't know why.
Was that, I thought that was apt pupil that was using
He
gushy.
does it in both. I think he does it in both. There was certain things like that. It just really it bugged me. I don't really have a reason for why, but generally I like the story.
Yeah.
I think I first saw the film in secondary school for some reason. We never read the book. But it was one of those films that just got put on when, like, end of the year or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
It was the first time I watched the film, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
No, I am surprised that, especially you said you liked it, Stephen, Jonathan, and Jason. Surprised that you guys weren't warmer towards it, because I'll guess I'll describe what I like about it. I think that I remember the first time I watched this movie, and maybe nostalgia is part of why I like this, but I do think it's a good story in its own right. I think you guys remember my cousin Michelle. I think she was around watching Jonathan when he was very, very young, because I was too young to watch him, and she was a few years older than me, and she came over with a few of her friends, and then they like stuck on this movie. I was like, oh, that's a good movie, Stand By Me, and put it on, and I had never seen it before, and I remember just like, because like girls were in my house, it's a very exciting moment for like a young boy, and then suddenly it was like, no, Stand By Me is on. That movie had me enraptured. I forgot that they were in the room. That's how much I love the movie. I thought, like, you said the dialogue was annoying, Stephen. I think the dialogue is so good. Like, I think it is so accurate to how we talk to each other, even though we use different
not all the dialogue.
Yeah,
just some of the slang that they were using.
It's different slang. It's a different era, and it's a different time and place. But I think like the spirit of the way they talk to each other, the way they're constantly like slagging each other, I think Kane captures that so realistically compared to so many people who write children. I think he has an accurate reflection of what it's like to be a child, compared like a little boy. Like, a lot of people just forget what it's like, and I think he reflects it so well through the story. It's the way they talk to each other, I think, is extremely realistic. The way that the spirit of the way we would have talked to each other when we were that age.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Why I kind of liked it more, I think, is because it made me remember the old times.
Yeah. And
we never found a dead body, but
yeah,
can you imagine?
Yeah. And I'd never like seen that in a movie prior to watching Stand By Me. I'd never seen it done so well and so reflective to how I felt at the time of watching it. But and the novella and the movie, they're very similar. They follow a very similar train, and it's that classical story adventure, like The Hobbit, like a point A to point E or whatever, and then you have the B, the C, the D in the middle, all the like the trials and tribulations that happen. So it's that very classical structure, and I don't know, I just thought it really captured what it was like to be that age and what it was like to want to go on an adventure. And I remember we would slowly like branch out and test boundaries and go to new places, and eventually you do strike a limit. You're like, well, this is where like the borders end and there's nowhere left to explore. But it really captured for me that sense of excitement and that sense of like danger of being a child too, because to me the most scary thing about being that age was not adults, it was bigger children, because they were like the bullies within this story, because they were more unpredictable. And I always maybe I shouldn't have been trusting adults as much based on what I know now, that most adults are fucking crazy or got their own issues and shit. But at the time I thought adults are all trustworthy, adults have got my back, it's these fuckers who aren't adults yet that are going to cause the damage, and they were the scary ones. And I just really loved that, and I actually love the Lardass story. As I said, I just, even it as a tangent, but to me that's part of the charm of reading Stephen King stories, that so many, like, Stephen King is a pantser. He writes as he goes, he makes it up as he goes, but to me that leads to so much organic storytelling compared to like it being plotted out. And I love the fact that a side character can come in and take over the story, or we can go off on this little tangent, and I would just enjoy it for its own sake. I thought, I don't know why I thought Lardass was so funny, but maybe it was because I saw it when I was slightly younger than these characters, and maybe that has endeared me more towards it. But I just thought it was a really endearing, it really brought me back to those days. So that's why I'm kind of surprised it didn't resonate with you guys more, because we obviously shared the same childhood, grew up on the same street and everything.
Yeah, behave like those kids.
Yeah, like I do agree with everything you're saying, apart from the side story things. Yeah.
I know what you're saying, Michael. Like, I think Stephen King's a great writer of the childhood perspective. I think he did a great job of it here. I think, yes, while the characters, at least the sort of believability of the characters and how they behave is really good, I just find the actual A to B plot, I just find it like lacking.
Yeah. You watched the movie, Jason. What did you think about the movie?
I thought the movie, weirdly, we myself and Mary Kate had watched a few movies in the sort of days before I watched Stand By Me, and I felt like I was just watching the Kiefer Sutherland bad guy arc every film I watched.
I can't believe that was him, by the way.
I was also, I think that might be the third film he showed up out of like 5 movies we had watched in like a week, where he was just being a art.
Yeah.
Another one being A Time to Kill, where he plays a fucking Ku Klux Klan member.
That's a good book we should do sometime.
Yeah, great film.
Haven't seen the movie, I've read the book though.
Oh, maybe. Oh, I've not read the book, but the film is amazing. So we're getting off track. The movie, again, I feel like the movie's pretty much the book, much the same as Shawshank is the book.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like there's much. Well, I don't think they did the stud story in it from memory, but
yeah, no, they didn't.
I just same issues. Like, I just find it a bit boring. Like, I just find that I didn't find there was. I know the plot is there. Like, the plot is very much like 4 lads coming of age, going to try and find this body, and just the adventures on the way. But I just didn't find there was really enough to hook me into it.
Yeah,
just nothing there to get his claws in. You know,
I'm still surprised, but no, I accept that. Jonathan, do you have anything else to add in response, or should we move on?
Yeah, just I kind of agree with Jason said. Like, yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I just find it boring.
Stephen, did you want to add anything, because you've seen the movie as well? Anything comparing the movie to the? I kind of agree with Jason. The movie as the book, apart from Stud City.
I like the movie. It's just it's short, relatively short, nice wee adventure story.
Yeah, it's a nice wee comfort.
Like 80 minutes of fairness.
I think I could say I would stand by you, Michael, in your summary.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that.
No bother.
Boo.
So that brings us to the final story in the collection, which is the winter story, the breathing method. The breathing method is probably the most pure horror story in this book. It is.
Can we skip this one?
it's probably I don't even know why this is called a novella, because it seemed like a short story. It doesn't seem long enough to be a novella. It had
It
a
was
very
like honestly 2.5 hours. Like, yeah.
yeah. So I wonder what the word count of this story is, and whether it is actually a novella range. But the story is it's about a fella called David. It's a framing tale. He's a middle-aged Manhattan lawyer. He hears about this gentleman's club where part of the whole stick is to get together to chat and play billiards, chess, and one of the things that they do is tell stories. So it's Christmas and it's a framing story. This is a very popular like structure that Charles Dickens obviously made very, very common, and a lot of have done their like homage to Dickens doing that. So I think that's what King is doing here. One of the tales is told by an elderly physician, Mr. Emmeline McCarn, tells a story about a time in his career where a patient named Sandra Stansfield, I think she had a child. Well, she was going to give birth to a child out of wedlock. She wasn't married, basically, and she was determined to have this child no matter what happened. And there was this kind of also, I think it was like Hampton, that there was almost she had this like foreboding sense of the future, like she knew of her impending doom somehow. And McCarran was supporting her, and he mentions to her like this method of breathing through childbirth that will help her go into labor, help her through it and everything. And then it describes that she is in a taxi going towards to go into labor. It's an icy winter night, and she is decapitated. And McCarran arrives at the crash site, and he realizes that Sandra is still alive. Her lungs are still moving, her decapitated body is still pumping air, and the head seems to have some level of awareness. McCarran manages to deliver the infant, and I think it leaves it ambiguous to whether this really happened or whether McCarran imagined this, but Sandra whispers thank you. Her severed head mouths the words. And then McCarran, he is able to tell her that it is a boy before she expires. He believes. McCarran and the nurse pay for the woman's burial. The child is adopted. McCarran keeps track of him over the years and says that he's like an accomplished professor and everything. And he tells everybody that he has his mother's hazel eyes. And then I think we go back to David, the narrator of the framing story, who kind of feels like he has the sense of like belonging at this club. I've been keeping my thoughts to last on this, but I'm actually going to give my thoughts first. I definitely find this to be a weird inclusion in this collection. It is no doubt. I know what he's doing with the whole Dickens reference and that kind of building of atmosphere. It does feel like that standard Christmas story, and it just has that short story structure where it's building up to a creepy thing and then a creepy thing happens. Whereas the rest of the book is full of so many twists and turns and so many character-driven stories. This definitely feels like the weirdest of the bunch to me, and that's a strange thing to say in a collection that includes apt pupil. But it is a bizarre story, I would say. The horror coming from it's just a moment of body horror where Sandra is breathing through. It's hard for me to think what the theme is of this as. I researched into it, and some people interpret it as more about human resilience, and and all the stories are tying into that in some regard. But I am quite lukewarm on this story compared to the others, and I can see why this one was not adapted into a movie compared to the others, because there's just not much there. Apparently it has been tried to be produced into a movie, but it's currently in like production limbo as of 2024 when we're recording this, the end of 2024. So I'll go to you first, Jason. What did you think of this story?
I liked the story. Very short and sweet. I think just while you were giving the summary, I think I seen it was 55 pages. So very short and sweet. Although I found it short and sweet, concise, built up the atmosphere, Christmas vibes, winter vibes, to sort of like, this sort of story around the fireplace, essentially. Yeah. And I felt that I found it a bit weird not weird, but like, you know, it went from like the narrator, like the lawyer, who then just sat and like the actual story came from like a completely different character, and he like sort of took up the second half of the book, telling the story about this lady and the breathing method. But I actually liked it. I thought it was one of the stronger stories.
Yeah, again, I am surprised, Jason, but it's hard to disagree that it does build atmosphere up very well, and it is definitely concise. I am surprised at that as well. I'll go to you, Jonathan. I think you already revealed your thoughts on this story and your summary review, but if you want to talk about it again there.
Yeah, I find this story a bit hard to follow at times. It wasn't really until near the end that I kind of really knew what was going on. And then when it was done, I was just like, what the hell did I just listen to? Like, what was that? Yeah, I thought it was quite a strange story. Kind of just agreeing with what you just said, Michael. It felt very out of place. Like, it felt so different. The other three stories, although completely different stories, I don't know, they just felt like normal. It was just like they were normal stories, and then you have this one that's like supernatural nature just like thrown in there. It just felt weird. But I guess like Christmas is that kind of time of year for things like that when you're talking about stories. But yeah, I just thought it was a weird story, and I was glad it was short, so it wasn't too bad. It wasn't like I had to slog through it or anything. Like, it was, because it was so short and concise, like it just kind of got through it quick enough. So yeah, I was happy enough with that. So yeah, it's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think Jonathan or I are quite as negative as you, Stephen. You've definitely telegraphed what you think of this story throughout. Do you want to talk about it a bit?
It was stupid and I hated it. Let's move on. No, I don't know. I think by the time I got to this story, I was spent.
Yeah.
Like, what is it, 17 hours in?
Yeah.
A fresh story starts, and I was kind of like, I don't know. And I found it was really slow, even though it's so short. I found it really slow to actually get into it.
Yeah.
Right. And then the premise is just really dumb, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like, I don't think I'm as far negative as you, because I do think the story it builds up atmosphere, and it is creepy. But yeah, I still think I do feel, what was the point of that story coming out of it?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Aye, no bother. So that concludes our spoiler review. So I think we're gonna go into ratings here. Myself being the host, I am gonna take the benefit of that and elect myself to go last. I'm interested to see how everybody works this out as an average, what the justification is for it. And if you want, you don't have to do this, but if you want, you can also rank the stories. That I'll be doing that in my review anyway, in my summary. So Jason, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I have already ranked everything, so I think I made it pretty clear what I liked and what I didn't like in this story.
Yeah.
I have a pet, Rita Hayworth. Shawshank is my favourite. I was going to give my scores. I've just scored that a straight 5 out of 5. I thought that was just great. I had no issues with that at all. I have scored Apt Pupil and the Breathing Method actually in a joint second place. I have given them both a 4. Both very different experiences, and they use the term liked for this 4 for Apt Pupil as I like the story rather than the actual horror and the unpleasantness of it. But and then last place, I have given The Body a 2.5. So that sort of works my average out at a 3.875. So I'll be very kind to you, Michael, and round it up to 4 out of 5 overall for different seasons.
Yeah, happy days. I think 2.5, very harsh on The Body, but but 4 overall is pretty good.
I looked 2 out of 5. We have that written down as boring or mildly disliked, and boring is how I found it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. So it was Jonathan, wasn't it? I went to second. Jonathan, do you want to go next? Give yours.
Yep. So I would say that the Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption and Apt Pupil are both a 4 for me. Although I would say Apt Pupil is more like, a higher 4, but not quite a 4.5. So I'd say they're both a 4 for me. I would say that Stand By Me, The Body, I'd say that's probably a 2.5 for me. I thought it was just alright, but boring. But yeah, it wasn't the worst story in the world. Like, it just didn't do anything exciting for me. So I would say that's probably a 2.5, and then I would give the breathing method a 1.5. I just thought it was quite weird, not really up my street at all. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it at all. So yeah, I'd say that brings my average basically to a 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Stephen, do you want to give yours next?
Sure. I didn't know we were doing them all, rating them all individually, but
I didn't do that either, Stephen, don't worry.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give it a 4 because that's what I was going to give it, but
yeah.
I'll do them all individually anyway. Shawshank 5. Mine goes in order, the story order. So Shawshank a 5 was next. Apt Pupil 4. Probably 4. The Body 3.5, and the Breathing Method a 1. I don't know what the average is, and I don't care. It's 4.
Yeah, I was going to say less than 4, but
happy days. So I actually have Apt Pupil as number 1, and I would actually, maybe this shows what a sick individual I am, but I would actually give it a 5. I found it an extremely powerful story. I would give, obviously I was the warmest on the Body. I would give the Body and Shawshank both a 4.5, and I would give the Breathing Method somewhere around a 2. Again, I don't know what the average is, and again, they're different weight, they're different lengths, so I wouldn't want to even calculate that either.
A 2? That's got to be your lowest. Has to be.
I think I give Ready Player One a 2. Like, I think.
Yeah, you might have done that.
I was robbed.
You did.
Overall, I'm going to give it 4.5 based on the other 3 stories. The Breathing Method, I would just probably skip that if I was to reread this.
Cool. That brings the average then between us to 3.875.
Cool. We've got a lot of separating to try and do for our end of the year list. A lot are on similar ratings.
Just before we move on from the story, I think Jason did mention Frank Muller, the narrator. Just one is, like he said, it was like Shawshank one. It was similar to Morgan Freeman. I found that a bit too. He had this kind of mellow voice that was just very easy to listen to. So I thought, he was a good narrator. He was easy to listen to. Just to mention a bit about him.
I was surprised that I liked the narrator so much. I think you all know my thoughts on that type of narration. So I was expecting to hate it, but no, it was good.
I was actually surprised, Stephen, that you don't have an issue with it, because that's what I thought when I started. I was like, I like it. I like Frank Muller's. I think he's has a good intonation. He's quite engaging, but I was like, this might be one that Stephen doesn't like.
Yeah, you can never guess what I think, Michael. Okay, don't even try. Stop trying.
Yeah, I thought you would have loved the Shadow of the Gods.
Yeah, that surprised me too.
I'm a complex individual.
It still hurts.
That's the most surprising score this entire year to me. Stephen giving that a 1. I actually agreed with
trying to give it a 0.5.
Actually agreed with a lot of his points, but he just felt them 100 times more strongly than I did. That concludes our scoring and review of different seasons. So comparisons to other media. I guess it's just Stephen King obviously wrote another prison story that's very famous, apart from Shawshank, which is The Green Mile. I would say there's some parallels there, but it also has quite a different story. Body, again, I would compare it to, I would say it's in its infant stage, sort of influenced a lot of how it came to fruition, especially the relationship with the three boys. It would be written shortly after this. So I would say The Body kind of warmed Stephen King up. Was there anything you guys thought of when you were through this collection?
No, it was the only thing I wanted to mention, purely for what you said. That sort of story told through the young child's eyes for David.
Yeah, like I said during the review, while I was reading Apt Pupil, I sort of got Death Note vibes.
Yeah.
Not because the plots are similar, but just the cat and mouse element of it. And how are they gonna get caught? Like, how are they gonna psych themselves? That was good. I liked it.
Yeah. I think I mentioned Charles Dickens, obviously, I would say heavily inspired the last story, but I think that's pretty much it. Trivia, I kind of dispensed my trivia throughout what I had throughout the stories. Can't really think of anything that I didn't mention during the reviews. Don't know if you guys looked anything up.
I had a few points, but I think I sprinkled them in as we were talking.
So what else are we consuming then? So we'll go to that next. Jason, if you want to go first for this, what else are you consuming? What else have you been consuming over the last month since we've last recorded?
I think I mentioned over the past few sessions I've been slowly working my way through it. I finished that probably a while ago, actually. In fairness, I've just finished another book. Finished a book called My Beautiful Friend. Mary Kate got me that for my birthday. The offer, I can't remember what you call the offer is now, but it's part of this like quadret, is that the right word, of a quadrilogy of books written by an author, Elena Ferrante. I think she's an Italian author. I actually thought it was quite good. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to be my cup of tea. A story about two girls growing up in this sort of relationship, but I did actually enjoy it. I have now since picked up Dune Messiah from the library, so that's going to be my next book I'm going to read. Yeah, so Dune Messiah, I'm going to give that my next read. In terms of video games, I have just been trying to play a bit of Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, whenever I get the chance.
Good man yourself.
Yeah, enjoying it. Finished Goku Saga, finished Piccolo Saga. That's about it. That's about all I've done for this. In terms of films, movies, TV shows, I've been watching The Penguin. I've finished The Penguin. I would highly recommend. I think that's been one of the best TV shows this year. Especially if you enjoyed the Batman movie by Matt Reeves. Came out 2022. Highly recommend The Penguin. I think that's really all I can think of at the moment. Oh, actually, I'm a liar. I have finished the sequel to Stephen's favourite book, Shadow of the Gods. I finished the sequel for that just the other day also. Started the third book, which just came out there about 4 weeks ago. So just a couple hours into that. Which will be the third book in the trilogy, so excited to see how it ends.
Jonathan, same question.
So Kira, my girlfriend, was up there the other day, and we were looking for Sunday watch on TV with me, her, and my housemate Daniel. And she recommended this thing, which I was thinking was going to be very, chick flicky, but not chick flicky, but like aimed towards female audience. And that is this TV show on Disney Plus called Rivals. I don't know if any of you have heard tell of it. It's quite
what a TV show.
Popular at that. Unbelievable.
What's it called, sir?
Rivals. So David Tennant stars in it, and a couple of other names.
Aidan
Danny
Turner,
Dyer's
is
in
that
it
what it's
actually, and
called?
he's actually, Danny Dyer too, who's actually acting well in it, which is mad. But no, it's basically a load of posh people all cheating on each other and whatnot, but it's like the main thing in it is like this Irish guy who's like the host of like a TV show and stuff, and there's a lot of like basically backstabbing and rivalry basically going around during that. The drama is just crazy. Like it's one of the first shows in a while that like we've powered through 5 episodes in 2 days. There's 8 episodes, and it's not sure, I can't remember if it's going to be a one-off season or is there seasons.
I'm not too sure. I feel like maybe it ends like a bit of a cliffhanger from memory.
Yeah, okay, but yeah,
I would
definitely recommend.
I'll be giving that a watch this
just.
now.
I feel like
Sorry,
you might
that
have to
sounds
just sort of
interesting.
power through the first episode. I found the first episode a bit boring. I felt like it's just a typical show about people shagging.
First episode test.
But I thought it really picked up.
Yeah, it's written, it's a book written by a girl, Jilly Cooper, and like she's known for writing quite raunchy stuff. There is like sex scenes in this, but it's I think, like the first episode has a few, but then it's less, it's kind of like the way Game of Thrones, started with pure sex scenes, and then, you get a few sprinkled here and there then because it became about something else. So it's kind of like they use the sex scenes to get them hooked, and then actually move on to the more engaging stuff. But no, it's really good. So it's your man, that guy that plays Translucent, if you remember, in like the first episode or two of The Boys, he's in it as well, and he's brilliant in it. But no, I would definitely recommend watching that, and it's one of them things you could just power through in a few days. In terms of games, I have been playing one game as Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I haven't played Call of Duty in ages, like years. I think Modern Warfare 3 was the last one I played properly, and that's Modern Warfare 3, the original Modern Warfare 3, not the newer one, because they like restarted it basically. Oh yeah, they started like the Modern Warfare series again. I don't understand why, but basically this one, Black Ops 6, was made free on the Xbox Game Pass, which I have a PC, but like through Microsoft you can use, like there's a PC Game Pass version essentially, and Daniel has an Xbox, so me and him have been playing it, but like I've just been stuck in the zombie mode, which I think they've just made serious improvements to. But yeah, just really stalking at them, and just every night. It's brilliant. But yeah, it's just the fact that it's free as well. I think they like make their money from all the battle pass extras, all the skins and all that crap, which I don't really care about, so I'm basically just getting a free game at it. But yeah, really enjoying that. Not doing too much else, to be honest, so yeah. Basically the other book I'm reading is, or been listening to, is one by the comedian Lemmy, Brian Lemons, if you guys are all familiar with him anyway. But it's basically his autobiography, surprisingly down to earth, I think you call it. Very, very good, while funny. Well, you know, he talks about a lot of mental issues he had and depression and suicide thoughts and all that kind of stuff. But he also talks about all the drugs he's taken and all that kind of stuff. He's just a melt. Like, he's just hilarious.
That's a brilliant one. I was going to recommend that one time for this.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think he does, which I think I really enjoy, and I think why it's so funny is because he does it in a Scottish, he reads it, he narrates it, so it's in that really Glaswegian accent, which people not from Scotland or Northern Ireland, I think we kind of, because we share a similar slang of Scotland, we understand a lot of what they say, but I think people outside of those areas might find it hard to understand because he uses a lot of slang terms, but it's the Scottish accent is just hilarious, like, so. Yeah, I'd recommend listening to it.
I thought that was brilliant. Like, and really moving too, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Are you implying that we are hard to understand, Jonathan? How dare you?
Well, we don't use the slang that he uses unless we try to keep that at a minimum, whereas he is going full Glaswegian on it, like he's...
We went through extensive media training before we started the show.
But yeah, that's me. That's kind of my three different areas of consumption.
Stephen, I know you have 2 young children and your time is a bit hectic. Have you managed to get much on the last month?
But man, a lot of my consumption happens about after 9 o'clock now. That's where everything gets wrapped up. And then I have a couple hours there to just power through. Or like when I'm doing the dishes or something, I might stick on something, or whatever. But the main things I've been watching is Dragon Ball Daima, the new Dragon Ball series started releasing last month. There's only 6 episodes, but it's really, really good. Definitely recommend it. I don't know if it's out dubbed yet, but I'm watching it subtitled, which is it's not so bad. I just have to pay more attention and look at the screen more than I think I normally would. But it's good. Sarah and I were both watching Big Brother, which just finished there the other day. It was really good. It's like a guilty pleasure watch that we do every year, so raging that's over, to be honest. I'm playing loads of World of Warcraft in the evenings. Loads. Back on the train. Fully.
You're never off the train, sir.
No, I haven't. There's been periods where it's there, but I haven't really been at it too much. But now I'm fully invested again, and it feels great. Getting the fix every night is great. I think the only other thing then is Sarah has bought me an original DS for my birthday. I haven't got it yet, but because it's not yet my birthday. But I will be playing loads of old games that I still have for both the Game Boy and the DS. So that's going to be great.
That's how it is.
Nice.
Can't wait. That's about it, yeah.
Yeah. As for myself, haven't been as productive this month as I usually like to be. I've been editing away at our new show. I've got episode 4 and episode 5 edited there and scheduled up for 2025. That's the one where What's the Crack with Albums, where we're basically talking about a different album each episode. And I'm still working on the 6th episode there, but I'll chat to you guys about recording schedules at the end of this episode. Part of the reason I didn't get a lot of stuff done as well is that I went to visit one of our mutual friends in Lithuania, which was a cool trip. My second time in Eastern Europe, and it was fun. I was over for a couple of days. Our friend Polius was turning 30, so we went over, kind of had him showing us around Lithuania. It was really lovely. There's so many trees in Lithuania. It was and then we had a great costume party, and Polius lives on this massive piece of land. I remember him saying to us when we were all younger that his dad lived in a big house and stuff. But I was like, yeah, whatever, Polius. But he does live in an absolute massive house, and it was kind of crazy. But I had a lot of fun over in Lithuania. We also went to Dublin. Jonathan, you were there as well. We went to see the final, the Derry match, which was not a good result there, but still a nice reason to just have a little day out and everything. I also we met up with 2 more of our mutual friends, Lee and Connor, there recently. We went to watch Gladiator 2. That's the first time I've been in the cinema in a long time. The movie was okay. It was obviously not as good as the first one, But I think a lot of the set pieces and everything were very impressive in a lot of the filmmaking. I thought Paul Mescal had a pretty good performance, and I don't know the actor's name. I just know him as Eddie from Stranger Things, but I really liked him in the Emperor role. But I don't think the storyline was quite as strong as the first one.
I feel bad now. I meant to reply to Golly about that. Going to see that, I forgot.
Oh, right.
I couldn't go anyway, but I just feel bad that I didn't reply to him.
Oh, yeah. He'll be fine.
He's definitely not thinking about it. Like,
Oh, one thing that I should mention here is because I mentioned it before Stephen actually mentioned it before you said that I was a journalist before, but I wasn't actually like a full-time employed journalist. I wrote freelance for our local paper.
Fucking journo.
fucking journo.
So I do have like a big interest in the news, and obviously it's been a big time for news. Like I said previously on the show in regards to the American election, that for a long time I had anticipated Trump winning again, and then I said that I changed my mind and I was feeling like Harris might pip him to it, and I knew it was going to. A lot of the polls were saying that it was going to be a close thing. A lot of the polls had it as 50-50, so I knew that it was not set in stone or anything, but I was surprised at how comprehensive Trump won the election. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy time for the world. You know, America have yet again elected somebody who is a climate denier. Last time he was in office, he pulled America out of the Paris Agreement. America is one of the biggest historical causers of global emissions. A lot of climate scientists have said this is like such a crux time. We've seen extreme weather events all over the world, so it is quite worrying for like it's going to affect everybody, not just Americans, this election. So, but it's clear that America voted Trump in because they were worried about the economy, because there was a lot of inflation under Joe Biden's regime, and they equated that with Kamala Harris. But I think that was false, because the whole globe has been under inflation. I'm sure all you guys can confirm that you're paying a lot more for things than you were 4 years ago. Everybody is. Just to tie that onto this book, Stephen King has said that he's leaving Twitter/X or whatever because it's too toxic on there right now, and I've seen a lot of other celebrities are doing likewise. Obviously, Stephen King is a very left wing as well, and not a big fan of Elon Musk, or he's clashed a lot with Elon Musk on Twitter over the years. Elon Musk seems to be a big Stephen King fan and seems to love to message him, but Stephen King clearly does not like him and does not like Trump.
They'll be back. They'll all be back on Twitter in a couple of months. Just you wait. Just like the last time they said they were all leaving and then they came back again.
Yeah, I don't know where like what social media to be on anymore. Like I think like I don't know what social media do you guys use nowadays?
Just Twitter. I don't want to learn the new ones.
Yeah.
And Facebook's too much of a cesspool, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Twitter and Instagram, but like just for scrolling, just doom scrolling more than anything.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't judge you for that because I basically do the same thing on Reddit.
Yeah, I use Reddit less than I used to. I used to be on Reddit a lot, but yeah, deleted my favorite app, and I've just not been the same since. Yeah,
there's a lot of AI posts on Reddit now, which has made me consider leaving. Like I think I've said to you guys before, I think AI is going to lead to like the downfall of the entire internet because it's just going to be full of slop, and like spam is going to be endless. And no, that's a very doomsday thing to say, like, but
it's been like that for years, man. Where have you been?
Yeah, but I think it's going to amp up a whole nother level, like in the next few years.
Give me the slop, just feed it to me.
But yeah, on that happy note, let's go on to plugs. Guys, do you have anything to plug?
I just have the usual YouTube channel. Haven't done anything there in a while. The blogs, I am currently working on my next one, so that should be out probably by the time this episode is out. Because it'll be within the next 2 weeks. So yeah, that'll be a part 2 of one that's already up there. So yeah, that'll be linked in the description. Yeah,
just the usual for me as well. Links are in the descriptions, other podcasts and stuff. Yeah. Okay, so that is me finished with my episode. We have covered different seasons by Stephen King. Stephen McCann, the other Stephen in my life, will be doing the next episode. Stephen, you want to reveal?
Yeah, sure. So the next book we're going to do is a book that is probably my favourite series, not necessarily my favourite book, but favourite series. It's one that I've been threatening to suggest for probably since the whole time we've been doing this, but it's going to be Red Rising by Pierce Brown and narrated by Tim Gerard Reynolds. So yeah, check that out next time.
It's mad that Michael and Jason are both going to give that one just to get revenge.
Jason definitely will not be given that one, I'll tell you that now.
Stephen, that might be my favourite book in the world, but you're getting the one.
Why?
AI slop.
So that's
Good stuff.
yeah, looking forward to talking about that book. Of course, that'll be our. That's what. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was just going to ask, there's no movie or anything about that book? It's just the book?
No, not yet. I think there was talks that they was going to do a TV show, but I haven't heard anything about it.
Okay.
Of course, that will be our first episode of 2025, but we do have an extra episode that will come out before that, which is our year in the review episode. So we're going to talk about all the audiobooks that we've rated in 2024 and see what order they fall in, and just see if our feelings have changed or anything like that. So we'll be doing that episode as well.
Bye.
Catch you on the flop.
Michael, you say you've read the book, haven't you, Michael?
I have, yes.
Right, so Johnny's the only person that hasn't read it before.
Yeah, so no guessing game.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, I've already started reading it too, so I already kind of know what it's about.
I said bye like 3 times.
Bye.
I'll see you
on the flop.
See you on the flip.
Bye.
Right.
All right.